Hello there, everybody. This is Mel Allen. Coming up on This Week in Baseball, the Montreal Expos streak into first place, paced by a pitching staff that's mowing them down. A brave new move for Ron Gant.
Where we get in trouble and lose a foot on our jump is when the ball's hit, we stand up, all right, and then start to go after the ball.
An old star sparkles anew. Willie Randolph dazzles with the Dodgers. Comebacks and coming stars coming up next on This Week in Baseball.
I don't think there's going to be any teams in this division that's going to lay down and let us win. I don't think there's going to be any situations where we're going to lay down and just let anybody else win. But we have to play like we want to win. We have to win. No excuses about it. I think we have the ability to win. We have the people to win, but we just have to do it.
And right now, the good times are really rolling for the Montreal Expos, who are in a mighty tight race that got even tighter after they blew the Cubs out of first place. Don Zimmer was frantic for runs, but Kevin Gross refused. He shut out the Cubs on 3 hits as the Expos allowed just 1 run in the 3-game sweep. The series finale at Wrigley brought pure afternoon delight again as Dennis Martinez combined on a second straight shutout of the Cubs, his 6th win in a row. Still more good news for a pitching staff that had been uneven, but now is coming on.
Gross and Martinez and Grain Smith had been doing the yeoman's job, but the other 2 spots were not producing too well. So we think we got Pasquale straightened out, and now with Mark in the rotation, we think we got a very quality pitching staff.
Even more so since the much-hailed arrival of Mark Langston, who's pitched as advertised, winning 4 games as he promises to be a critical man down the pennant stretch. And don't forget the turnabout of Pasquale Perez, who was off stride with an 0-6 start that sent him to the bullpen. But he's back on the beam now, and behind some pretty fine pitching, the Expos have won 6 straight to regain first place. Meanwhile, the eyes of Texas are fixed on a pair of hardy hitters. Talking about Julio Franco for one, sparking the Rangers to their 17-5 start. Franco has hit better than 300 for 2 months, now near 340. But he's not the lone Texas star at the top of the league. Ruben Sierra is keeping him company. And while holding down the top 2 spots in batting, they were also 1-2 in RBIs. But to stay in the running, you gotta have pitching. Nolan Ryan's son Reese is not ready for the majors yet, but man, his dad is still firing away. Just look at him.
2 outs in the 8th inning. Ryan still has not allowed a hit. The right field, Sierra will have to hurry. Can't get it. A base hit for Jacoby, looking for the double, and he is in with a double with 2 outs in the 8th inning. Nolan Ryan comes very, very close again. A standing ovation from the 23,000 plus here in Arlington.
The 3rd time this season that Ryan lost a no-hitter in the 8th inning. How about that? Still, he beat the Indians for win number 9 and raised his strikeout total to a league-leading 128, which means that at the age of 42, Ryan has added a strikeout per game.
I don't view my job as being able to do something other people haven't been able to accomplish. I view it as I have a responsibility to the ball club and teammates I pitch for, and that I take pride in what I do, and I want to be at my best when I go out there, and so that's the way I approach it.
Of course, the Nolan Ryan of today is a whole lot different from the Mets rookie of 21 years ago who had a mighty blazing fastball, but a big problem with its control.
The older you get, the more mature you get, the more you approach it like a business and a livelihood. And I think when you first get on into the major leagues at a very young age, that it's all fun and that it's exciting, and you probably don't have nearly as serious an approach to it that you do later.
A young and very wild Nolan Ryan did help the Mets beat the Orioles in the 1969 World Series. Now, it would be a few years before he blossomed into a really great pitcher.
I probably throw my changeup more now because I have confidence in it, and I throw it for a higher percentage of strikes, and it's a better pitch than it was 10 or 15 years ago. I think my fastball from 10 to 15 years ago has probably lost some velocity of, it's hard for me to say because in those days they really didn't have radar guns, but I would guess somewhere around 3 or 4 miles an hour.
And that's still about 35 miles above the speed limit in any state. Now, as July 4th approaches, let's recall a twib tale of patriotic fervor. Rick Mundy was with the Chicago Cubs in 1976, and that was the year of the bicentennial. During his career, Mundy had a flair for the dramatic, but that summer, he became famous for an act of fire prevention in Dodger Stadium.
I saw these guys come out from the bullpen area down the left field line at Dodger Stadium, and I didn't know what it was that they were going to do and didn't really care. And I saw that one of them, there were two people, for lack of a better word, we'll call them gentlemen, came on the field. One of them had something under his arm, and I couldn't tell what it was. Then I saw it would look like something like a banner or whatever. It was folded. They stopped in shallow left center field and spread it out as if it were a picnic blanket, which I saw was an American flag. And then took something out of his belt area that was shiny, and he was dousing it. And I assumed it was lighter fluid. I knew it wasn't holy water, and I knew they weren't out there to do any good. They got there, the wind blew the first match out. They lit the second one, and I saw it was going down there, but I was just about there at the time. So I reached down and grabbed it and continued to run. And then they threw the can of lighter fluid past me while I continued on towards the Dodger dugout. I was not going to allow them to do something to deface American flag and use the platform of Major League Baseball to do it. Today, this day, I have that flag in my house.
And now it's time for this week's quiz, brought to you by today's Chevy truck. Julio Franco and Ruben Sierra could end up with the league's 2 highest averages. Can you name the last teammates to finish 1-2 in batting? At the age of 34, Willie Randolph looks fit as can be. While Dodger bats have hardly made a peep, Randolph has chimed in with an average near 300. And as always, the 5-time All-Star carries a gold glove.
Ground ball, and Randolph throws to the plate. Unbelievable play by Willie Randolph to get the force on Doran. That is a spectacular effort by the Dodgers' second baseman.
Willie's exploits may be new to the Dodgers, but they were well known to the Yankees for 13 seasons, ever since his first day back in 1976.
The feeling is tough to describe, but I remember going into the stadium and looking around me and almost being like a hush comes over the crowd, almost like you know you're there, but it's like you don't really believe you're there. It's, living a dream more or less. As a kid growing up, you just fantasize about being in the big leagues, but here I am playing, 21 years old in front of my hometown fans, and I'm there. It's reality for me.
The reality may have been hard to believe. That rookie season, Willie was on the first of 3 straight pennant-winning teams. How about that?
Set the tempo, I guess, for my career in so many ways. We lost to the Big Red Machine, but we won in 77, 78. And that kind of prepared me, for what I was going to get into later on. I mean, the experience you gain from being with people like Thurman Munson, the Roy Whites, and the Chris Chambliss, those guys taught me so much at a young age, so it kind of prepared me for what I was going to deal with in the future.
The Yankees were winning, but a lot of them were also fighting. A state of affairs that the low-key Randolph managed to avoid. He just went about his business and stayed clear of the headlines.
It used to bother me that they used to label us the Bronx Zoo, you know, because I always felt like that was an exaggeration. But, and, you know, looking back in retrospect, I guess in a way, that's the way it was, you know. It took me a while to admit that, but, you know, it got to the point where you just felt like, you know, this, enough of this, let's just play baseball. But that's New York. I mean, things are magnified and blown out of proportion, but you have to be thick-skinned enough to deal with it.
With his Yankee career over last season, Randolph had to deal with the sadness of leaving New York.
I'm a New Yorker. I played, you know, in New York my whole career. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, so my family and friends are there, so I'm going to miss that. But, you know, I'm a ball player, you know. I play for the people, and the Yankees went out and got another second baseman. That just told me they didn't want me. So the transition for me was easy then because, you know, I gave my heart and soul to the club, and I'll do the same thing for the Dodgers. But that made it easy for me to move on. The fact that they said, listen, you know, we don't want you anymore.
But with the Dodgers, Willie has cast aside any notions that he may be on the decline. And now at age 30-something, he's a star on a new horizon. Time now to open the notebook for This Week in Baseball's Twib Notes from around the majors. The Cardinals' Vince Coleman has been running in a league of his own. With 34 steals, he's on the way to reaching 100 for the 4th time. He also made history with this steal.
He's running. Bears pitches a ball. Bill Ardello's throw, not in time. Into center field it goes. Coleman on the errant throw will advance to third, but he has stolen 38 consecutive bases.
Tying the mark set by the Dodgers' Davy Lopes in 1975. But Coleman didn't stop there. Next game against the Pirates, he collected 2 more steals. And in running his string to an even 40, he smashed Lopes' mark and went into the record books all alone. Rather relieved that he finally made it.
When any time you get that close, you don't want to be denied, you know, a record that's been held for so long, and it's real tough, you know, getting to that point. Not being thrown out, because in my situation I am labeled as a base stealer and everybody's going to be gunning for me. So, you know, now you can look forward for tomorrow and knowing that it's behind me now, and I continue to go ahead and play the best of my ability and hope that I continue a bigger string.
Against the Phillies, the Mets went a whole game without recording an assist, tying a major league mark. How about that? There were 12 fly balls, 13 strikeouts, and 2 ground balls to the first baseman. All 27 outs without a helping hand. It was a bad knee that prompted Buddy Bell to call it quits in his 18th season. Bell broke in with Cleveland in 1972, a standout from the start. Later with Texas, he won 6 straight Gold Gloves, the most of any American League third baseman except Brooks Robinson. Bell's bat was also prolific. He and his father Gus, each of whom played with the Cincinnati Reds, by the way, combined for more than 400 homers. And this single on April 4th put Buddy in the record books with hit number 2,500, the final milestone of a splendid career. Now, the answer to this week's quiz, brought to you by today's Chevy truck. In 1984, Dave Winfield hit 340, second only to teammate Don Mattingly's 343. They say love conquers all, but it ain't helping the Atlanta Braves get out of last place. Of course, manager Russ Nixon was mighty grateful his star slugger finally got on the stick.
Here's Dale Murphy. It's been 169 at-bats since he hit a home run. Well hit right field. Nobody's going to get that ball. It's out of here. It hit the wall and bounced over, so that gets that monkey off his back, and the game is tied.
A blast at last for Murphy. But now to Nixon's next dilemma. How to get an RBI for the very frustrated Gerald Perry, who's gone 165 at-bats without one. Oh, man, he's come close.
To the shortstop, out the shortstop's glove, in to score Jeff Treadway, and the Braves lead it 1-0. It'll be an error charge to the shortstop, Lenny Harris.
So no RBI for Perry, who couldn't get the play off his mind when he was on first base. There was one out, but he flew as if there were two.
Leonard going on the 2-1, driven to the gap to left center field. Daniels back toward the track, reaches up and has it. Where is Gerald Perry going? Gerald Perry came all the way around, crossed home plate. It's a double play. The ball was caught. Gerald's first day back off the list. It's been kind of crazy.
It's the second time Perry was lost in space in the day's doubleheader. The first came in Game 1.
He got there just in time.
Now watch this.
And now the runner tries to score, and he does. As Perry argued with the first base umpire, Gary Darling, Harris very alertly came in from third. That's a rock by Perry.
Now, if you think that's weird, how about the tough luck of Zane Smith, who lost 7 straight, dropped to 1-11, although some problems are not entirely of his own making, like this game, where there's 1 on, 1 out.
The 3-2. There he goes. All the way to the screen. Gonzalez around second. He's on his way to third. He's going to make it easily. Gibson tries for second. Now nobody's covering home. Zane gets there late. The run is in. And Gibson heads for third. Total of 6 bases on 1 walk.
Hey, if that's not trouble enough, Ron Gant has been a daze. Coming off a most convincing rookie season in which he had 19 homers, Gant has barely hit above 170. He's also struggled in the infield. Last year at second, he made 26 errors. This year at third, he's already made 16. So recently, Gant was sent to the Class A Sumter Braves for a crash course on how to play center field, a position the Braves figure may go a little easier on him.
He was putting a lot of pressure on himself. He had a lot of media pressure, had a lot of people watching him in Atlanta. And I think what they wanted to do was just kind of get him into a low media type area like Sumter is, without a lot of people wanting interviews, and just let him get away for a little while, let him learn the position of center field, and just let him have a good time.
But lost in the obscurity of the minors, Gant's not having too much fun. He also knows that until he's back up in September, this is as close to Atlanta as he'll probably get for a while.
It's kind of tough getting motivated and you know, knowing that you've been to the majors and you failed at a position, or you didn't work things out like you wanted to. And it's kind of a battle with your own self. It's hard on your pride and your ego, but, you know, it's something that you have to put in the past and think about your future. And I think that's what the way I'm going to handle it.
While in Sumter, Gant is getting pointers on his new position from manager and former major leaguer Ned Yost.
Balls that are hit over your head, you know, to be quicker. Where we get in trouble and lose a foot on our jump is when the ball's hit, we stand up, all right, and then start to go after the ball. Always remember to try to stay low. If it's hit, you see it's hit over your head, low, boom. It's a little rougher than a big league outfield. It's all right. It's good practice.
Fielding-wise, I think that I won't have too much to worry about. I think I can cover the outfield well and field the ground balls and make the throws, and my job's over with. Offensively, I think that working on my stroke and hitting some balls hard will increase my confidence. And, you know, when I get back to the major leagues, I think that I'll be ready, and my confidence and my concentration will be back with me.
Gant is working hard, just like everybody else. But to his Sumter teammates, he's one of the lucky ones who made it.
He's played hard, he's had his head in the game, and he knows, like I explained to him when he first got here, that every one of 25 kids on my team, eyes are going to be glued on him from the first second he walks in that clubhouse till he leaves. And, you know, it was up to him to set a good example. He said, don't worry.
I remember what it was like coming up, and, you know, it seemed like I was so far away from the big leagues. I think to these kids here that it brings them a little closer to the big leagues. They say, hey, here's a guy that's been where we are now, and he's been in the big leagues, and he's just coming down here. He's working hard as any of us, and, you know, I think that's the kind of impression I want to leave on these guys down here.
Well, if Gant was at first dismayed by the move, he says his outlook has changed.
Now I just let things happen and try to keep a cool attitude about it instead of going off and, you know, breaking bats and throwing helmets and stuff. You know, I think this helped me to be a little more relaxed, and I think it'll help me in the long run.
When he first came in, I told him, Ronnie, this is just a little tool that you'll be able to use from now on. It's a lesson that next time this happens and we start pressing and we learn how not to press and we learn what happens when we do press and the trouble that it brings on. And he said, yeah, that he thinks this would be a very valuable lesson to him.
A lesson that Gant hopes will pay off for the return ticket to Atlanta, this time for good.
I want to go up there and do my best and try to help the team and bring them a championship there. You know, I just want them to know that I'll be back and I'm going to do my best, and I know that I'm going to do well for the people in Atlanta.
Well, it's time now for our Player of the Week, brought to you by Gatorade Thirst Quencher. Joe Carter led the Indians on a shower of power in a game against Texas in which Cleveland had just 6 hits, but all of them were home runs. As for Carter, he hit 2, but was thirsty for more.
Drive to left field. This is a monstrous shot. Touch him all time. One more time for Joe Carter.
Next week, a profile on Kevin Mitchell, the astonishing slugger of the San Francisco Giants, who's been slugging in the league all by himself. That's all for now, folks. See you next week on This Week in Baseball.